and get started. So I'm going to introduce Les. Les has actually been here twice on two webinars. The first was the secrets to a successful portfolio. I think we did that almost like a year ago, which sounds kind of
Whoa,
crazy. I
wow.
know it, maybe not, but I feel like it was kind of a long time ago. And then we also did one which was coming face to face with the lioness, where you talked about that experience to create a gallery and also talked about other ways that you use Moab paper, which is really interesting. So both of those are also on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to post the YouTube channel in the chat just so you can take a look at those on your own time. So Les Picker is a wildlife and landscape photographer. He has photographed for National Geographic Society publications and several other magazines. He does photo tours, well, you did in the past, and workshops, and has recently launched 2 ebooks. The first is a guide to fine art printing. So if you don't already have this, if you haven't downloaded it, you should definitely download it. It's free. I'll put the link to that in the chat as well, but it has almost everything that you need to know about printing, from using Lightroom, soft proofing, learning all about printers, choosing a paper, and also framing. So I'll put that in the chat. And then the second, which we are talking all about today, which is the Art of the Gallery show, which Les is going to kind of cover most of it today, but you can also download that ebook, and we'll be linking that in the chat as well. So thank you so much, Les, for joining us, and I'm going to pass it off to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paige. I really appreciate it. Let me just go into my share button here and get you guys to, there we go. Where are we now? There we are. Okay, I hope everyone can see that. I welcome everyone here. Is it clear, Paige?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay. Well, today I'm excited actually about doing this. By the way, when the invitation to this webinar came out, it said it's a 60-page ebook. It's actually 71 pages, just to set the record straight. The book is called The Art of the Gallery Show, so you should have it up on your screens right now. And what I'm trying to do here is move that, but it's not happening, so whatever. So The Art of the Gallery Show. Let's go through it. It's, as I said, 71 pages, excuse me. It's very comprehensive, from the thought that you might have in your mind for doing a gallery show all the way up to the opening night and the follow-up. And you'll see in a moment what all it includes, but it's really quite comprehensive. Unlike so many other books or ebooks on the topic, it's what I would call photographer focused. As you know, most galleries really cater to other kinds of fine art work, oil paintings, watercolors, etc. This is particularly focused on the photographer. I am a photographer. I've done gallery shows and gallery placements. So this is photographer focused. Which I think is, there's either a subtle and sometimes a major difference in how we approach this topic. It's also experience-based. I have experience with galleries, but also I have counseled dozens of photographers in landing their own either gallery show, and I want to be clear here, when I talk about gallery shows, I'm speaking anything from landing a spot in a gallery with 1 or 2 of your prints to the possibility of an entire solo exhibition. The approach is similar, but of course the result is quite different. And we'll get into that as we move along today. This is what I would call a real world perspective. I'm not giving you pie in the sky ideas. These are actually how you can land or manage more effectively. If you're already experienced, by the way, with a gallery show, I'm hoping that through the book, through this presentation, you'll get some tips and hints to make it even more effective. And that brings up a point here. This book is 70 pages. It's very, very meaty. It has a lot of detail in it. I can't possibly cover all that's in that ebook in a presentation that's going to last maybe 45 minutes or perhaps an hour with questions. So I'm going to be sort of going through it fairly quickly, try to get some major points across, but the book itself has really a lot of data in it. And as you can see that here, this is the one of the opening pages here in the book. And you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, we talk about how to prepare for the show, how to find a venue, how to make the ask. How do you get, once you get into speak to a gallerist, how do you get to your win of having a show or being accepted into a gallery as a client? The editing and planning, finances. So we're going to go through all of this. I have it all titled for you as we go through it. I also want to say that the book has some appendices in it, resources with actual e-links to those resources that I recommend. And I have no financial interest in those resources. The worksheets will help you organize your approach to the gallery and the actual exhibit itself. So there we go with the sort of the background. Any questions you have, pop them up on the Q&A, and then Paige will feed them to me as we go along. All right, now I may have to postpone you. In other words, if a question comes along that I intend to cover 3 slides from your question, I'll let you know that, but that's just the way, but feel free to just throw your questions at me. Paige, anything coming in yet? Can't hear you.
Sorry, nope, not yet.
Okay, good. All right, let's move along. A photographer I know once said this: and I think it's really true. It's creating your own gallery, whether it be a solo exhibition or a 1 or 2 or 3 or more of your prints being exhibited. It really is very energizing for reasons we'll discuss as we go along. It validates you as a photographer, not necessarily in your entire career or passion, your avocation, but rather where you are right now. It's very validating to have that exhibited and sort of put a marker in the ground. This is who I am. This is where I am in my photography. So I find it to be really a worthwhile experience. And by the way, this image is from, taken in the Antarctic, because I know people always ask, you know, as I go through this, where were certain images taken? Well, this may sound like a silly question, but what do we mean by a gallery show, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each? Obviously, when we think of a gallery show, we all think of a commercial art gallery. I'm here to tell you that that may not be the best start or the best way to exhibit your images. And I'm going to tell you why. Of course, the advantage of a commercial art gallery is, you know, you have the imprimatur of the gallerist who says, hey, this man or this woman's work is really of a really professional nature, and we're going to sell it to our clientele. Well, of course, the disadvantage of that is the fact that you're going to only see 50%. Typically, as you get more experience with a gallery and are very successful selling, you may have some negotiating advantages, and you might get the percentages down to 40% to the gallery and 60% to you. But generally, commercial galleries are 50-50. So the advantage is, you know, a good clientele will come in. You'll get the validation from being in a commercial art gallery. But I have to tell you, very successful photographers exhibit in what I would call alternate spaces, other venues that are very, very important. One of my clients and a dear friend who specializes in architectural photography put on a solo exhibit in a regional library, and that was highly successful and brought him a lot of notice in his region. But believe it or not, concert and sport venues are places where you can exhibit your work. We have a little tiny concert hall in my historic town of Havre de Grace, Maryland, and it only holds maybe 350 people, but it's got a lobby where people go during intermission, where people congregate before and after the performances. You may have a concert or a sport venue that brings in thousands of people. What a great venue that would be for people to see your work. YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, City Hall, many small and medium-sized towns, and even large cities in our state of Maryland and Annapolis, the legislative halls host exhibits. So houses of worship, great place to exhibit work. Restaurants, offices and businesses, and don't forget office building lobbies. I did an exhibit several years ago in a high traffic office building where people are coming and going all day long, rush hour, a lot of people go in, lunchtime, after work. So that actually presented a really good sales opportunity for me. Airports nowadays have art exhibits, public and private schools, universities and community colleges. In other words, the list really is almost endless if you think creatively as to what venues you have to post your gallery shows. Some of them, let's face it, may not be, if you're looking to establish a revenue stream, some may not be as effective as, let's say, being in a commercial art gallery, but then again, your costs are lower and your share of the revenue is greater. So don't turn your backs on these other kinds of show places, these other venues. Anything coming up?
So someone is asking, is this relevant to UK gallery exhibitions also?
Say that.
Is this relevant to UK gallery exhibitions as well?
Yes, absolutely. We, as some of you know, I teach workshops around the world, and that is absolutely true in a lot of European galleries. However, Europe tends to be more focused on the fine arts, oil paintings, watercolors, and the like. So it's somewhat harder to get into UK galleries as a photographer, but that doesn't mean that you can't, number one. And number two is a good way to raise your stature so that commercial art galleries are receptive to your work is by exhibiting in some of these other venues. And by the way, you are actually, it's not like you're asking for a favor. You are helping these people to fulfill their mission by making their workplace or the city hall or their religious center more attractive, more appealing to their users. So I would say yes, go ahead, UK or elsewhere. You should pursue any of these, in fact, multiples of these kinds of venues, okay? All right, the question then is why a gallery show? Should you even consider a gallery show? All right, and this is an area where we get a really mixed bag of why people really want to do a gallery show. So let me go over these quickly. First of all, what is your motivation for doing this? Is it the challenge? That's perfectly valid. It is a challenging thing to do. I'm about to describe it, to do it right, to have it be successful, to have it be repeatable. There's a lot of effort involved, folks. So facing a challenge like this, great way to look at it. It's also a validation. You're saying to yourself, I'm going to be on public display. This is going to be either a validation of my art, or in some cases, you're going to always find people who don't appreciate your kind of photography, for example. I remember going to a gallery in New York once for, not, it wasn't my show, but it was another person's show. And it was a black and white exhibition of nudes, really, really exquisitely done. The lighting was perfect, etc. And this couple came in and left in a huff because they thought that, you know, this was something immoral. But I mean, it said in big letters outside that this was a show of nude images. So I'm, you know, whatever. So there are all sorts of people, and some some people will not, may not anyway, like your work. It's also a great idea for brand recognition. If you're building up your brand as Joe Smith, wildlife photographer, or Edith Jones, fashion photographer, or wildlife photographer, that brand recognition is reinforced. Even if you don't sell a lot of images, it does tend to reinforce your brand. So that's a good motivation for a gallery show. It's also a wonderful way to showcase your work. If you have no other ambition, just to say, here's my work. I just want to publicize it, or have my friends and relatives and acquaintances see my work. Good idea. But it's also, and I'll end with this on why a gallery show is, it's a yardstick by which you can measure your development as a photographer. I would hope that a gallery show you do today versus one you do 10 years from now will show growth in your skills. So it is a good way to measure where you are at any particular time in your career. That's for yourself, not to show others, but it gives you a chance. I look back at some of my exhibitions and I say, wow, you know, boy, my photography has really evolved. In the past, I shot, of course, filmed and DSLR. Now I shoot a strictly medium format. So I see the growth there. Also, even in the papers you use. Back 25, 30 years ago, I was using kind of very nondescript papers. Now I'm a Moab master photographer. I love Moab papers, and I see my use of those papers are specifically geared to the kind of scenes that are there, to the texture of the papers, etc. So I see real development in my work in the gallery show. Lastly, excuse me, lastly, I say this because revenue, if you're looking for galleries, your gallery exhibitions to be a major source of revenue, that's a great motivation. I'm here to tell you it's more difficult than you might think, but eminently doable, all right? How do you prepare? First of all, by the way, did you want me to take any questions, Paige?
We do have questions, but I think that you might get to them. So someone is asking about like some insurance issues and also pricing.
Yes, good. Okay, well, yes, we are. I have a whole slide on finances.
Great, so okay. I'll ask those when it comes to it.
Thank you. Okay, so preparation, if you're considering this, but even if you've done this before, you know, the gallery world is constantly evolving. You really need to better understand gallery owners. Who are they? What are they facing? What are they looking for? These are all things that come from reading trade publications, reading art magazines, anything you can pick up, doing Google searches on art galleries to find out what the trends are, what are the pressures on gallery owners, etc. One thing I do want to say, two things I want to say. One, gallery owners are people. They are people just like you and I. They're not mystical, they're not gods. They're people trying to earn a living doing something that they love. That's the first thing. So I think that helps to understand that. Second of all, in the exchange between the gallery owner and the photographer, you actually hold the upper hand because they need your work. They can't sell blank walls. They have to have good imagery, good prints. Difference, by the way, between the imagery and the way it is on print. Printing's a whole, it's a whole other dimension to it, and that's the beauty of an exhibition, being able to see your work in print. So, so this is a mutual exchange between the gallery, the gallerist, and you. So you're helping each other. It's very synergistic, not it's not antagonistic. Important point. Research your targets. Know which galleries you want to approach, and ask colleagues for recommendations. But above all, folks, visit the galleries that you want to approach, assuming you can. I mean, if you're living in Kansas and you want to approach a New York City gallery, obviously it's going to be difficult. However, even then, I would recommend a weekend visit and to New York City or Chicago, wherever you're going to be, wherever your targets are, and spend that time visiting 5, 6, 8 galleries during that weekend. It's well worth it. Before you approach, put together the basics. My worksheets that I offered as part of this ebook, you should have an artist statement so that you can state it clearly, succinctly in 25 words or less. It's sort of like the elevator speech that businesses always talk about. What are your goals as a photographer and as an exhibitor? Make sure you have that down pat. Get your bio down very, very briefly. Do not include extraneous information. They don't need to know where you went to high school or what sports you played. What we're talking about is a photographic bio here that's very concise and to the point. Be clear about your value proposition. Now, some of you who are new to business or not involved in business may not understand what value proposition is. I'm not here to explain it. I'll just say that a value proposition, in this case, is what you can offer the gallery or the venue, whatever the venue is, the YMCA or the library. What can you offer that increases your value to them, right? For example, let's say you're going to do it in a regional library. Maybe you have a whole collection of regional spots, landscapes, architecture, wildlife, whatever it may be. You have, that is something you can offer them that would be attractive to them, right? This is all well and good. If you have a wildlife organization that operates its headquarters or its local affiliates out of your town or your locale, you might propose to them a wildlife exhibit that would be attractive to them. So you see the value proposition. Another thing is, do you have expertise in marketing? Make sure the gallerist understands that, because if you can bring more people into the gallery, that increases their sales potential. So anything that shows that your value to them and helps them to understand that you understand them and what their needs are is really, really quite helpful. All right, let's get to the, of course, critical question people always ask is, how do I make the ask? All right, to get these gallerists to say yes. First of all, first things first, always check their website. Really do a deep dive into their website. What kinds of art do they offer? Are they looking just for modern photography? Are they looking for street photography? In other words, get a good sense, because if you are suggesting to them, landscapes, for example, but when you go there, they're almost exclusively dedicated to street photographers. It's a no-go. Don't try to get a square peg into a round hole. Check other galleries. By the way, I think at last count, I forget, there are pretty close to 20,000 galleries, something like that, in North America. So, there are plenty of opportunities. Obviously, dress appropriately. Don't forget the gallerist, and this applies when I say understand the gallerist's needs. The gallerist is always thinking toward opening night. I have a whole slide here talking about opening night because it's so critical. They're thinking about that, and they see you walking in with torn jeans and whatever. It's not going to sit well with them because they know they have to cater to their clientele, especially on the all critical opening night. Very, very, very important. You're talking to the person. You've got to show a portfolio. Folks, that doesn't mean a file folder in which you chuck your 8.5 by 11 prints and you intend to show them. You need to look professional. You have to, this is part of your value proposition that you understand. They're looking at it, you might say, oh I sell my prints for $200 each. To a gallerist, that's not gonna fly. They're gonna probably have, for your $200 print, they'll probably have to ask $500 for it, right? People who are gonna come in and buy $500,000, $2,000 prints are not gonna be the kind of people that may react kindly to your being disheveled, is my point. So I don't wanna belabor that, but your portfolio has to reflect that too. So, I'll give you an example. I did a whole webinar for Moab, as Paige pointed out a year ago already. Moab offers a portfolio called a Flint portfolio. It's a very nice presentation, just jet black. It's hard, got a hard cover. This is one I did on Antarctic, and it's done on this particular folio is done on Moab Entrada 300 GSM paper. And as you open it, it has wonderful options. This is all in black and white, but it's got a good presentation. It's flat. As you open it, any particular page, it's a nice, this is a nice presentation to show the gallerist your work. Now, I say don't chuck your 8.5 by 11s into a file folder. In fact, don't bring 8.5 11s with you, except as a marketing piece, which I'll explain as I get into opening night. A gallerist is going to be selling things on the wall. They're going to be 13 by 19 minimum, up to 20 by 30s, 30s by 40s, maybe even 40 by 60s. So you have to give them an idea large enough for them to really see what your images, what your prints will look like in a larger size. So the Flint portfolio is a good way to start. We do, in our studio, twice a year, we offer a three full day workshop for people who are at the point where they're really ready to go to try to sell in galleries. This is a cloth bound, handmade wood portfolio, and it has a wonderful presentation. And my point in doing this is to say, if you can impress the gallerist and show them the quality of your work, it's really helpful. There's a pair of gloves here. When you open it up, it's ribboned. And by the way, go to the video because you have close-ups of this in that video. But the point is that in here, we have, there's a place also for, now my point here is not to advertise this, not to market this, but to show what a nice presentation should be. This has a vellum cover to each photo that comes away, and it matches only the photo it's intended for, the print that it's intended for. And this is also on Entrada textured paper, Entrada textured, Moab Entrada textured. So in here are 10 images, 10 prints that comprise what I call a Canada portfolio. That was really a very successful presentation, exhibition that I did several years ago. So There you go. So make sure your portfolio has a professional appearance to it. I think that will help your sales and sell your concept to the gallerist.
Are there a certain amount of images that you think should be shown?
Don't overwhelm. My suggestion is between 10 and 20. Don't go more than that. It's overwhelming. It tends to distract. Put your most wow images that reflect your value proposition, that reflect the concept you're pitching on the top. Let them see that right away, and then all your other images, they're going to go through it fast, but nothing less than 13 by 19, but not huge. You don't want to walk in with, you know, having to take a card in with you to bring in your images. Don't make the images. For example, I did a gallery exhibition called Wild Earth Monochrome. So it's landscapes and wildlife done only in monochrome. So when I went to the gallerist to show the gallerist my images, it was only wildlife and landscapes in black and white, period, because that's what the show is about. Now, as it turns out, he asked me for future shows, what else? Do you do color? And I said yes, and I said I will bring back color, and we set up an appointment. But again, you know, be as concise as you can be. 10 to 20 is more than adequate, and you should be able to make your sale through that. Don't leave, whatever you do, don't leave that gallery unless you know your next steps. I'll be in touch with you, you know, later. Is there anything that I can send you in the meantime? Would you like a thumbnails of what I presented? When can I expect to hear from you? If I don't hear from you, let's say in 2 or 3 months, should I check back with you? Know what your next steps are before you leave that gallery. All right, so now you've got the gallerist has said, okay, you can be one of my clients. I'll take 2 or 3 of your prints, or wow, your work is terrific, just what I've been looking for. I would like you to do a solo exhibition on your work. So what do you do next in terms of the editing and planning of your work? Obviously, make the best prints possible, folks. This is not the time to skimp. You don't want to use generic papers. I don't care if you use, you know, other brands, but the point is make sure it's the finest papers that suit your work. You know, of course, Moab has a huge selection of papers. We really never run out of possibilities there, but every so often we might have a very specific need. For example, an awagami washi paper from Japan. Well, if I need that specific paper, and by the way, Moab sells 2 washi type papers that are terrific. But if you need a very specialized paper, go ahead and do it. Now's the time. You don't want your show to appear any inference of second rate, right? Make the best prints possible. That means best papers. It doesn't make a difference whether you're self-printed or commercial. We, of course, you know, and I think most of you watching do your own printing, but you may have to go to a commercial lab. Make sure your color profiles are nailed by the lab. Make sure you ask for test strips before you commit to a print, to a large format print. 20 by 30s are expensive commercially. And if you do that, make sure you ask for a test strip prior to them doing the final print. Do not adhere your print to the backing board. Let's assume you're going to do traditional framing, and that's behind glass. The print touches the glass. Well, the print, you have your mats, which I'll get to in a second, and then the print behind the mats, and then there's a backing board that holds the whole thing in place. A lot of people in lower end exhibits adhere the print to the backing board. Don't. Just hinge it on with an art hinge. And I actually have a video on that in B&H Photo. I did a talk for them a couple of years back. But either way, you use a traditional hinge to adhere the print to the board. Don't use an adhesive at all for this, because if someone is buying the print because of its inherent value as a print, they want to be able to, at a future time, reframe it or gift it or whatever they're going to do for it. It's totally ruined if it, as a collectible print, if you have adhered it to a backing board like Gator board or something like that. Make sure if you're going to go behind glass that you're double or triple matting. It just adds some elegance to the display, to the presentation. Yeah. If you're going to traditional frame, make sure it has good glazing, preferably museum glass, which is a bit more expensive, but at the very least, it has to be UV protective glass. It's a selling point, and some galleries require it, frankly. And make sure your print on the back has a dust cover. There are a lot of galleries that won't accept framed prints unless it has a dust cover on the back. And it should. It should anyway. It dresses up your presentation. You should know about your gallery mounting height. Of course, commercial galleries know that. They know how to place your prints. But let's say you're doing one at a YMCA or City Hall. You know, you want your center of height to be about 54 inches. And that's sort of considered the standard gallery mounting height. Now, here's a key thing. All these things are great, but there's nothing as important as self-editing. In other words, the gallerist, let's say you're going to put 30 images, 30 prints on display. What 30 prints are they? You've been photographing for 40 years, for 10 years, whatever it is, and you've got a heck of a lot more than 20 images or 30 images that might qualify. Which ones do you put in? You need to understand self-editing. Are my compositions right on? Is everything in should be in critical focus? Are they in critical focus? No smudges on the prints. Do the prints put together, as they all come together, tell a story about the subject or a story about who I am as a photographer? And we find, at least we certainly do this in our workshops, in our portfolio development workshop, we only accept 4 people, and twice a year, 4 people. At that point, we work collegiately to give each other input and feedback on whether your selection is telling the story that it needs to tell. So those are all critical. I'm getting behind myself in time, so I'm going to start to move on.
And Les, before you do, could I ask a few questions that you have about the framing?
Yeah.
Who does the framing, the photographer or the gallery?
Good question. Good question. By the way, in our studio, I tend to do the framing here because I like to be able to say that all my work is done here, from capture of the image to printing to framing and display. But not all. If I have an order for 30 or 60 images, then I'll farm those out to someone who commercially makes the frames. Frames should be, I know I'm getting off track for a second here, but it's a teachable moment. Frames for photography should be simple, best used as black, or some people are using this matte silver nowadays. You don't want the frame to distract from the image itself and the paper itself. Now, some galleries want you to do the framing. Others say, no, you give us the prints, we will do the framing. So it's really a matter of individual preference on the part of the gallerist, and it may also depend upon your your style and your modality. For example, black and white photography, monochrome, whether it be sepia or plain black and white, it tends to work pretty well with plain black frames, and the gallerist is not going to be that, it's not going to be that critical. They may ask you to show you what the molding is like on your, that you intend to use on the frame, and that's fine. And we have a collection of corners, of frame corners that we can show the gallerist, and together we agree on which style we'll use. But other gallerists will say no, especially with color. They want to match the framing, the matting and the frame to the color photography. And I'm going to say in maybe 10 or 15% of the cases, more so the gallery will choose to do the framing with color than with black and white. But it's very variable. Next.
So a bunch of people are asking, do you have to have it framed? Some people think that maybe a frame isn't best for their work, but instead mounting is better for their work. So do you always suggest traditional framing, or can they do something else with their prints?
You can do something else with your print, but I mean, to have a print adhered to Gatorboard, for example, we never, ever suggest, in fact, we don't allow any exhibitions that we mount. We don't allow foam board. Foam board warps, it's horrible. You should always use Gatorboard, which is solid, consistent, and doesn't warp. So yeah, you can mount it to Gatorboard, but that's a less valuable print. I must tell you that. Now we're down to saying, okay, you can buy this 20 by 30 print for $100. You know, it's in some senses, it's not as elegant, if you will. Now, having said that, some people will show their prints hanging from a specially designed hanger, just the print, nothing behind it or whatever. And then there's a weighted bar on the bottom to keep it. It still looks a little curled, but it's going to be basically straight, because people are looking to just buy the print and frame it themselves. Works particularly well with color, because some people want their frames to be a color that matches the dominant color or even a secondary color in your print. That's one thing. The other thing is, and I'll get into this on opening night, but the point is, we like to, and we always suggest that aside from the prints that you have for sale on the wall in the gallery, which tend to be more expensive, you want to try to create what we call an ecosystem that anyone who loves your work can enter into at various price points. So for example, you may want to have some of the prints, let's say you're showing a nice 20 by 30 color print, have that same print available in 13 by 19, unframed, no backing on it, etc., just available as a print for someone who wants to buy it. So that print on the wall is 1,000. This 13 by 19 is 200 or 250. In addition, in every gallery exhibit that we do, we also offer these little 8.5 by 11s, but the print itself is 6 by 9, and it has information on the back as to who we are, et cetera. And that's available for like $35 or $40 or $50. So a person just coming in, a young couple looking to just get some good artwork, has an option of joining your ecosystem, and then in the future, hopefully buying a much more expensive as their appreciation of art grows. Okay, go ahead.
And then can you just briefly describe what the dust cover is?
The dust cover, yes. Okay, a dust cover, a large print, so I can't, it's hard for me to manage it, but so here's the front of the print, and then, can you see that? Yeah, okay, the back of the print. has a paper that protects the print, dust from entering the print and marring the front of the print with dust specks and so on. All right, and that's applied in a certain way. I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you that my video for B&H photo, if you look up my name on B&H photo event space, I show how to apply, how you put on a dust cover. Okay, anything else?
I think we'll keep moving on because we do have a lot of questions, but
Okay.
I think they'll come.
Okay, consistent style helps. You have to decide on the number, the size, and the placement of your images. It always helps at your gallery shows to raise the quality of the gallery of your exhibit, to have a catalog available and other accessories. So let me give you an example. In that Wild Earth exhibit that we did recently, we had, this is all printed on Moab and Trata paper, and I just scored the back very lightly with a razor blade, so that with an X-Acto knife, so that it opens up and closes nicely. And in it is a picture of all the images that are for sale, their prices, a little bit about them. All right, and designed by my associate Bob Boyer. And this print was sold as a 40, the actual lion, 40 by 60. I sold 2 images in that size at that gallery exhibit. But we also have these little cards. I take a sheet of 8.5 by 11, cut it in half, print, so I get 2 prints on one side. And these are prints of the actual, small little prints of what actually appears in the exhibit. And I say, take it home. These are yours. Anyone who comes into the gallery can pick several of these. I have 4 or 6 different scenes from the 30 that may be on display, and you take this home with you. And on the back, I've got marketing information. So it serves a dual purpose, but it gives people something to take home with them. It's kind of a good thing to do. After the exhibit is over, you're going to do a post-exhibit assessment, of course, and what worked, what didn't. I want to talk about finances now, all right? Set realistic goals for this. Everyone thinks, oh my God, I've got 6 images, 6 prints up there that are selling for, $1,000 each. I'm going to make $6,000. No, you're not. You're going to make, first of all, you're going to get the net of that sale to you, which is going to be half. So you're not getting 6,000 right away. You're down to 3,000. But make yourself a detailed pro forma. Look at these expenses I've got up here. You're going to pay for frame. By the way, whether you make the frames or the gallerist gets the thing framed, you're going to pay for it. That comes out of your pocket. The gallerist is not going to give you that as a gift. You're going to pay for half of that of that cost. Your fine art paper, paper's cost. Or if someone commercially prints it, then that cost of the printing, the paper cost is wrapped into that. You've got to buy acid-free mats. Make sure you tell all your any potential buyer that they're acid-free mats, and you should use that, and it's a selling point. Your inks are expensive nowadays. The printers are relatively cheap. The inks cost a fortune. I have a 44-inch printer. It cost me $2,300 for one set of inks. There are 12 inks in that set. My 24-inch printer, $670. I'm sorry, $1,100. My 17-inch printer, $650 or so. You're going to need signage. There's rent. If you have a venue other than a gallery, than a commercial gallery, you may have to pay for the space. There's a travel back and forth to the gallery to do your set yourself up. You've got these gallery cards. You may have a gallery catalog. All of these things have a cost to them, right? And then the revenue that comes in is going to be from framed print sales, from unframed print sales, like I just showed you, and from portfolio sales. So folks, this portfolio that you're going to get into the gallery with ends up, you can also have for sale at the gallery, and you can make it a limited edition. You can have the print signed or have the portfolio box signed, and that makes a wonderful sales item. And the sales price, since there are 10 or 12 images in there, can be rather substantial. So we're talking a couple of $1,000s for something like that. Please consider everything you do as investments and not a loss. In other words, if you, I remember my first few exhibits, I lost quite a bit of money. I didn't lose it. I willingly spent the money, but it taught me a lot. And while I may have been out $1,000 or $2,000 at the end of that exhibit, I learned so much that helped me for the next exhibits until eventually you will make money. Don't scrimp on your opening, folks. Have food, have refreshments, have some wine available and sparkling water, whatever it is, but make sure you don't scrimp on the opening. All right, let me move on, because again, we're seem to be short on time. What just happened here? We're going backwards. Why is that? Hang on. Give me a second here. I'm going to try to figure this out. We talked about that. Okay, so marketing and public relations. Make sure you send out announcements to your mailing lists, your established clients. Do presentations to camera clubs, do presentations to local social clubs, to whomever, your local Rotary Club, about your upcoming exhibit. Are there any nonprofit organizations you can partner with for your show? If you're doing street photography and it's emphasizing inner city poverty or something like that, there are dozens of NPOs that address this. Let them help to sponsor it, if you will, not with money, but by sending out invitations to their entire list of donors. Wonderful way to go. Contact the traditional media. They're not as effective in today's world as they used to be, but social media is critical. You've got to get out there in the social media, let people know about your upcoming exhibition, or even if it's 2 or 3 images, 2 or 3 prints that you're going to have posted in a gallery, let folks know about that so they come in. Gallery owners love that because they're now exposed to items, not just your artwork, but other items too. Advertising, we find, is not very helpful, by the way. It's very costly. It's not targeted. It's broad-based advertising. Generally does not work very well, so I'm not going to emphasize it here. So let's talk quickly about setting up your exhibit. Make sure you stage your setup days. And it might take you a day and a half, 2 days to get your exhibit all set up. Of course, if you're just doing 2 or 3 prints, then you just give it to the gallerists and they will stage them for you. But if you have a solo exhibit, make sure you have it carefully planned. Put a team together that understands what you intend to do, lay it out for them from the time you leave your home or your studio till you get everything mounted on the walls. Here's what they should expect. Make sure you recruit docents for opening night. This is very important. Have people at the door to greet people, have them, when bottlenecks appear during the exhibit, a bunch of people are clumped together talking and preventing others to move around. Train your docents on how to move them so that the movement around the exhibit occurs smoothly. Your job is to manage the forest. Don't get hung up, if you possibly can, with pruning the trees. You shouldn't be nailing the nails in the wall, so to speak. You should be telling people where they go and whether they're level or not. But you shouldn't be, if you can, try not to prune the trees. Make sure the lighting is good, of course, on your prints. Pay attention to visitor flow. The more you keep people moving, the more active they are, the more of your prints they're going to see. much better for everyone. Okay, all important opening. We're getting right to the end here. I'm going to surprise you by saying this. It's the only thing, by the way, that I have put in red in this entire presentation. Pre-sales. The success of any gallery opening, whether it be you're selling 6 prints or 60 prints, is pre-sales. There's nothing as enticing, as motivating for the buyer than seeing red dots next to your prints. And for those of you who are new to this game, red dots are placed next to a print that is sold. As soon as a print is sold, the gallerist will put up a red dot next to it. That generates a lot of excitement. It's almost like being at an auction, you know, and people start saying, oh, you know, people are validating it with their pocketbook, this artist's work. Invite influencers to your opening, the mayor of your town, the heads of your local hospital or nonprofit organization. Make sure you have influencers come, because they will pass the word to others, and it's those influencers who are also in the are perhaps more able to purchase your. God, there's something strangely wrong with this. All right, let me just get out of here again, and I apologize for this. Where are we? All right, so all important opening, as I was saying, pre-sales, invite influencers, prepare your remarks, have opening remarks for yourself. Don't just have it be you know, people walk in, it's like a zombie event. You should, at some point, usually 15 minutes after the opening is declared, maybe 30 minutes after the opening is declared, the gallerist calls for attention. You should have a few remarks. Don't give your whole life history. We're talking 3 to 4 minutes, and acknowledge people who've helped you, and you know, get going the importance of your work, what you would like people to get from it. Train your docents, help them to move people. Another important thing, tell your docents to bring people to your freebie handouts, right? That helps too. So train your docents, very important. Keep the people flowing. Oh heavens, I apologize for this. I don't know why my mouse is just going crazy. Have refreshments available. Get people's emails. Everyone who goes there, your docents should be trained to circulate and ask people if they've left their emails for announcements about your prints, etc. Okay, I'm going to go into some hints and tips quickly. I'll take some questions after this. How's that? Paige?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, read, ask, and listen. Make sure that you educate yourself about the gallery world, about the exhibition world. Go to gallery openings. Why not? I mean, they're free. Just go to gallery in New York City on Friday nights. You can go down to Soho or some of the other gallery centers in New York, and it's a wonderful night. You get free wine. You go into place for refreshments. You get to see what is selling, what's not selling. Practice self-editing. I talked a little bit about that already. And by the way, every one of these things I go into enormous detail in the ebook. Okay, I don't need to just self-promote it, but there's so much I can't say here that is that is contained in that ebook. Rejections equals success. I can't emphasize this thing enough. Some of you know I'm also a writer and an author. I have 5 novels out, 6th one soon, but I also have written for major magazines. When I first started out, this is just a small sample of my rejection slips. This is in the days when everyone sent letters, not emails. I always joke I've been rejected by some of the best magazines in the world when I first started out. But now I have 650 published articles in major magazines. Why? Because you have to look at your rejections partially as a success. You're learning about the field. You're learning what people want, buyers want, gallerists want. Don't look at rejections as anything but. I used to have a rule. When a rejection came in, 24 hours I gave myself to send it out again to the next publication, right? You should have something similar in mind. Your target 10 galleries, If one is not successful, get feedback from that gallerist. It's all part of investing in yourself, right? Invest in yourself, have a good printer, have the best, use the best papers, and only manufacturer's ink, by the way. The best camera equipment that you can afford, of course, you don't want to overextend yourself, but investing in yourself pairs with believing in yourself. I call it the 3 Ps. Have patience. This may not occur overnight. You may luck out the very first gallery you go to, they say, I love your work, I want you to work with us. But if not, have some patience, but definitely be persistent. I've always said I'm not the smartest tool in the box, but I'm the most persistent son of a gun you've ever met. So be persistent, it works. And then thirdly, professionalism. Show good professionalism. Don't get upset if you're rejected. Be professional about it. Ask what if they might be interested at some future time or whatever. Okay, a little treat for you guys. Moab in its good graces is sponsoring a discount for you. So if you want to download the ebook, which is normally $9.95, if you put in Moab when you check out, you get the book for $7.95. Okay, so there's a bit of a discount courtesy of Moab. Just type in Moab. And Paige, you'll put in the link to the book.
Yes, I did that already. It's in the chat.
Okay, good. Okay, so there you go. Art of the Gallery show. Now, let me just move on to something quickly, and then all the questions you have, I'll answer. We're so excited. Bob and I founded what is known as the Paper Arts Collective, and this is going to be devoted to excellence in the paper arts, printing, making homemade books, etc. We're very excited about it. And we're having our first open photographic print exhibition coming up. The winners, first, second, third place winners, and all the honorable mentions will have a gallery exhibition where we have a gallery rented outside of DC, and the winning prints are going to be exhibited there. We've rented the gallery already. There are going to be major cash prizes and cash awards, as well as prizes from BenQ, their gorgeous Adobe monitors, Canon printers, Moab papers, X-Rite calibrators, and other prizes. 2 categories, color and black and white. You can submit up to 6 entries, and you can divide them any way you want between color and black and white, all in one, or divide it up. We're doing something that no one else has done before, and that is you are restricted to submitting only 8.5 by 11 or A4 prints. Then, if you are a winner, we will ask you for the files, and we will print them 20 by 30 for exhibit at the gallery. In our studio, we're going to use the most exacting standards to make sure that your print comes out exactly as you want it to, just like it looks on your 8.5 by 11. And by the way, those prints will be for sale at the gallery. 100% of the sale price goes to you, minus the 3.5 or 4% credit card charge that we are forced to pay. So upon its sale, the winners will get that. The deadline is June 30th for the contest. The exhibition begins on Monday, October 18th, and we'll give you all sorts of information. If you want to sign up to be notified, next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, we're going to be blasting out an email with all the rules and everything that's required. So if you want to be on that list, go to lesterpickerphoto.com and then sign on to my website there, and then you'll be notified when this is all available. That's it. I want to thank you, but I know there's lots of questions, so fire them at me.
Yes, so we'll try to get through a few of these questions that we have. So a bunch of people were asking about limited edition prints. Do you offer limited edition prints? How do you price them differently? How do you do that? What is your protocol for that?
Okay, well, let me just say that limited edition prints is an entirely separate subject, if you will. I have a very, very, very visceral reaction to limited edition prints. We offer them. but I have to tell you that we never offer a limited edition in more than 25. I think people that offer 500, a 500 run of limited edition are unscrupulous. I have to say this, I'll defend myself from any charges of whatever you want, but maybe I'm being judgmental, but I think it's really doing a disservice to the buyer. If you're going to do limited editions, make them truly limited. And the price of the limited edition, of course, is more than a regular print. We'll offer two of the same print, let's say one limited edition, one not. The limited edition is numbered, signed, and whether you sign on the front or the back, what's called obverse signing, if you sign on the back, then that's your own personal preference. But I must say, the prints are numbered. As you get closer to the limit number, in my case, 25, some limited edition prints I only sell in an edition of 10. But as you get to the end of it, the price will go up, right? So the price increases as there are fewer available. So that's the theoretical understanding of limited edition prints. Now you can offer that as part of your gallery show. And no question about that. You can call it a limited edition print. You can also take orders for other prints in that limited edition. So let's say you're selling number 3 at your gallery. You can have a sheet for that particular print labeled 4 through 25, and people can sign up to order the future editions. Good place to do it.
And so just to go along with that, someone was asking, are the attendees purchasing the print on the wall, or is the print shipped to them afterwards, a separate print?
Good question. Again, they're typically buying the print on the wall, but shipping is extra, and that the gallerist will take care of that. If it's from the gallerist takes care of it. If, however, you are doing the sales because it's in a local library or whatever, then you're responsible for mailing it. I would urge you to learn about packaging prints for sale, especially frame prints, because you're going to be sending glass, which is not a good idea, folks, but you may be limited to that. Some people use plexiglass. It depends upon the price of your image, etc. Plexiglass is better in terms of breakage, but anyway, yeah, you would package it and pay for it if it's not a gallery, not a professional gallery.
What is your suggested response for someone asking for one of your prints in a different size than what you're showing?
Oh, love that. In other words, prints have grown in size, I will say, over the last century, because houses are larger and couches are larger. So we're finding that people want 40 by 60 images, or they want a pano that's 6 feet. Our longest pano that we've sold to date is 30 feet by 10 feet, right? It's sold to a hospital for a special neurological rehab unit, 30 feet long. So, that's like a wallpaper type installation. But generally, when people come over and say, yeah, I like that print, but can you make it in a larger size? Absolutely. We can do that for you, and we'll get back to you with the price or whatever. Yeah.
Do you sign your prints, and where do you sign them?
Good question. I'm a little bit out of the mainstream on this, in that I generally, unless I'm asked differently by the consumer, I sign on the back. Here's my rationale for it. I don't want my lousy signature to detract from this print that I have photographed for hours and struggled to post-process for hours and then printed 3 times to get it right. No, so I put my signature on the back. I let people know that. I give them a certificate of authenticity. It indicates it's on the back, that the signature they'll find on the back. But sometimes a person will say to me, no, I'd like it on the front, in which case I have to change the matting, right? I have to recut the mat so that I have room on the bottom for my signature. So that's fine, I will do that, but I'm just telling you that, that's my preference.
Someone is asking, let's say the photographer frames the print. Does the gallery share the cost, or is it on the photographer as part of their cost basis?
Part of their cost basis.
That's what I thought. With framing, do you recommend a specific glass, like a non-glare glass?
Yes, non-glare UV glass, non-glare UV glass, we absolutely recommend. Now you can go to the next level higher, which is museum quality glass that includes those two items. But I would, and there's a guaranteed no distortion in the glass, etc. But usually that's kind of excessive unless your prints are going for four figures and up.
Got it. And do you have a standard size margin for your prints?
Not specifically. I mean, as the print gets larger, our margins go up on the print for sure. But there's too many. I wish I could answer that question. There are too many variables involved. Unlike some of you watching, I also have an associate that I have to pay. So all of those calculations go into it, our machines, and there are too many variables to really me to give us a pat answer to it.
Got it. And so we do have some more questions, but people can find these likely in the book. They can also email me or email you, and follow us on Instagram, where we give some advice on different ideas that are asked here, and also you do too. So,
and also the ebook website, the printing ebook website has case studies on it. We have, I think, 11 case studies there that give more information about, in that case, about prints. One thing I would ask is, please, folks, send back your comments about this webinar to Paige or me. We'd love to get your comments. It helps helps us to improve time after time. If you have negative comments, that's great. I talk too slow, or I slur my words, whatever it is, just, that kind of feedback's really important for us.
I wouldn't say great, but we like the good feedback better. Yes, but feel free to email us. We're going to send up a follow-up email when this is available on our YouTube channel, along with, we'll add the links. I know some people were asking for the B&H webinar that you were talking about, so we'll include the link to that, and anything else that you have questions about. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Les, for presenting and giving this valuable information.
My pleasure. Enjoy yourself, everyone. Have a good week.
All right, bye.
Bye.